केंद्रीय पर्यावरण मंत्री प्रकाश जावड़ेकर ने मैड्रिड में शिखर सम्मेलन से इतर इस बारे में और जानकारियां दी।
Minister, you hosted the Delhi COP 14.
Yeah.
11 summits later, what is your stance on the climate?
I always believe that the climate change is a real danger which has to be mitigated by all efforts by every country. And therefore, COP 14 was also an effort to build that consensus for land degradation also. Because land, if it is not degraded, it holds carbon more. And therefore, carbon neutralization also happens through the land which is treated. And therefore, India has taken a massive lead, and Prime Minister declared 26 million hectares to be brought under out of degradation and restore it. So that restoration target is very big, and I'm very sure that all other countries will also take note of this aspect also. Mitigation is not only about coal, mitigation is not only about renewables, it's about everything, and therefore this land degradation is also an issue.
Countries generally now are trying to move away from the pre-2020 commitments under Kyoto, moving on to the post-2020 Paris Agreement. So what are India trying to do now to be part?
India will be strongly putting our case and every developing country case that this was a solemn promise in Kyoto that the second commitment period will be more ambitious. But what we have seen is that it is nowhere inside, and there was some action in first phase but not in the second phase. So we want this second phase to be strong enough, and if now people can say now it's only 12 months and the 2020 will also be over, and therefore what to do? But 2020 may be over, but the commitments prior to 2020, that should continue for next 5-10 years, so that those companies who have invested and they have not got the CDMs have to continue. That's our policy and that's our position.
Let's move specifically onto the solar energy commitments that you have. Well, can you shed some lights on those plans?
Yeah, solar energy, India committed 175 gigawatt of renewable energy, out of which 100 gigawatt was solar. And I'm happy to report when Prime Minister made this announcement, India had only 3 gigawatt of solar energy. Today we have 33 gigawatts. And in next 3 years, we'll create that 67 gigawatt also. So to make it 100 and 175 gigawatt will be achieved in time. At the same time, now he has upscaled the target to 450 gigawatts. This is not raising ambition. This is doing good things in more efficiently. And therefore, this is our own way of how India wants to be very serious, because we want to have 40% of our energy capacity mix through renewables.
So if you had to draw up a list of urgent steps that India would need to take, to alleviate environmental concerns, what would that urgent list be?
We have already given our nationally determined contributions and we are progressing on all that. It's only 3-4 countries which are really progressing very well in completing the programs and promises given in Paris. So we have already 21% of reduction in emission intensity. We'll achieve our 35% goal. We have created this renewable mix of 40% in our energy capacity. At the same time, we have taken a target of creating 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon equivalent, in which we have already generated last 5 years 13,000 square kilometers of green cover. Within forest and outside forest, tree cover has increased, and we are creating carbon sink everywhere. So we are growing in the right direction, and this land degradation, all efforts put together, India will overdo what it has promised, and more importantly, it will outperform itself. We are competing with ourselves, and I'm very sure that all countries need to work, because it's not single country's action can mitigate the challenge. To mitigate the challenge, we need all countries to work in that sincerity.
You mentioned there that you're doing well in the field of forest restoration as well as saving flora and fauna. What do you need to do there to take preeminence now as India in climate negotiations?
We have now released nearly $10 billion worth of money. We have given it to states, and with a specific plan of water and fodder augmentation in the forest, because 80% of rivers are born and flow from forest area only, forest hills. So there will be a water treatment from reach to valley, watershed development programs, and that will conserve the water. So even human-animal conflict will also go down, because animals will not require to come out, because they will get enough prey, enough grass, food, and at the same time they get the water. So they don't come outside, because that's their natural habitat. And also we are improving and incentivizing the agroforestry, the social forestry, and all kinds of forestry, because once it becomes a mass movement and it is catching up. So plant a tree and grow a tree. We have also come out with a new concept of creating your own oxygen bank. If you plant and grow 7 big trees, that provides you lifelong oxygen. So that's your own oxygen bank. Everybody must create that. We are also having program of urban afforestation, urban forestry, as well as school nurseries, so that the habits are formed right in the beginning of childhood.
Finally, your disaster risk reduction programs, are you increasing them?
Yeah, see, Prime Minister Modi ji has launched coalition of disaster resistance infrastructure, and many countries are supporting. So that will get formalized and institutionalized very soon. But we are already doing various methods, and when there were hurricanes, there were no casualties. So this is happening in India. Otherwise, every time a hurricane comes, hundreds of people used to die, but timely relocation, the NDRF, National Disaster Resilience Force, and these state SDRFs also are working very nicely. And so we are going ahead with full-blown programs of disaster resilient mechanism. And I'm very sure that in very near future will be disaster prone.